Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And right now we're going to tell you how we felt about Two Guns, which is a movie that is based on a comic book. I had no idea.
Me neither.
This happens more often than I would think, but there are so many movies being based on comic books, obscure and otherwise, that I go in and I go, oh, and that was also a comic book. We didn't go to it because of that. I didn't know it until the theater. There wasn't a lot that came out this week, so we picked this one. And this is a movie starring Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg, and they are, it's kind of a drug comedy drama thing. It's about drug crime, and it puts kind of a neat and odd spin on the buddy cop thing, where it takes two guys who both are government agents. One works for the DEA and the other one works for the Navy, and each of them has no idea. They think that the opposing one is part of a drug cartel trying to steal mob money, and they conspire together to rob a bank, each of them thinking that they're working for their respective part of the government, and they eventually come to find out who they each really are, and insanity ensues. So, Brandon, Two Guns made me feel like eating a donut.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
It did. I felt like eating a donut after I watched this movie. There's a lot of really kind of standard and formulaic in this movie, but there's one line. There's some good writing in this. I did feel like for the most part that the comedy didn't overpower the drama. That they were well integrated together, and that it was that the relationship between Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg is really funny, and they have a great chemistry together, and so I really enjoyed all that. But not an especially memorable movie for me, with the exception of one line, partly because it's repeated a couple of times, but I loved it and laughed at it in the first place, which is, let's see if I can remember this right, you know what they say, never rob a bank across the street from a diner with the best donuts in 3 counties.
Yes.
That's hilarious. I laughed at that. I thought that was great. And it's also funny because somebody else says it later that has never met Denzel Washington, who said it in the first place. And I'm like, apparently this is actually a saying around these parts.
Haven't you ever heard the saying? Yeah,
and I don't know if I buy that, but it's hilarious. It was really funny. This movie is incredibly over the top. It's got some obligatory action, but it has some fun action. Overall, it didn't leave a giant impression on me. I'm not sure I loved the ending, the very, very end. Obviously, Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg, I enjoyed together as lawmen, ultimately, more than I did, say, Tonto and the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
That all worked. It helped that they found a mutual respect for each other, where I felt like that other movie, they never had that mutual respect, and that was something I was looking for in this. So that was good, but then at the very end, I felt like it got a little bit cynical with how it ended. I mean, like, it's funny, I guess. It fits within the tone of the movie. I think maybe part of the problem is just that while I found some of the comedy very funny, a lot of it wasn't for me. A lot of it was too raunchy for my taste, too vulgar for my taste, and I can't think of any other way to say this. This isn't a word I would usually use on the channel, but way too many dick jokes, man. Just too many for my taste.
Oh, okay.
Ultimately, I'm having a tough time deciding where to flip the sign on this one, and I think for this, for the sake of going to the theater, I'm gonna say not feeling it.
Okay.
But I think this is definitely a rental. I think it's a solid flick. I think it's a lot of fun to watch. I don't think that I needed to go to the theater for it. So, like, this is going to be one of those where I wish I could flip the sign like this. It was okay.
Go ahead.
I didn't hate it, but I think for the theater, I'm going to flip it to the red. Go ahead, Brandon. How did you feel?
I say, why not have the middle of the sign be that thing where you rent it?
I gotta pick. Yeah, but I gotta pick one or the other. You know, the old thumbs up or down sort of thing. I gotta go one way or the other. I feel like this is one of those movies that is not for me, but I can appreciate why a lot of people would like it. You know what I mean? So I guess the thing is there are a lot of people. And I kind of imagine, and it'll be fun to see what you have to say, because I kind of imagine you probably enjoyed this a tad more than I did. We'll see. But so I feel like I'm probably recommending this to some people, but not to people who have a lot of my sensibilities.
Right, I got you. I understand.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
so this movie made me feel like robbing a bank is something Cap and I could start doing on the weekends.
Oh man, don't say that.
This is what I've come to know as typical Mark Wahlberg flick.
Okay, sure.
And I actually really dig Mark Wahlberg since I started seeing his stuff.
I don't know him much. I like him here.
I don't know him much either, but I saw the other cop thing he was in with Will Ferrell. I enjoyed him in that. I can't think the other guys that one.
Yeah, I didn't see
And
that.
then I saw him in Contraband. I enjoyed that. That was kind of my sensibilities on that. I enjoyed that movie. Like you mentioned, we picked a movie to go to this week. We didn't have an idea of what we wanted to go see, and
I knew nothing about
when I
this going
texted
in.
you back about what we were going to say, this is the one I mentioned twice in the text, and you're like, okay, you mentioned it twice.
So I guess
let's
we'll
go. And so
Yeah.
we really knew nothing about this going into it, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Okay, cool.
And
Yeah.
I thought that the action was not gratuitous, like there wasn't too much of it. I felt that it was the right amount for this type of over-the-top movie that we were watching. It had some twists and turns.
It's that sort of movie.
Right,
Yeah.
but it had some twists
It's
and
really
turns I wasn't
80s in
expecting.
that way, yeah.
Yeah, and they did not. They probably had the right amount of dick jokes for me.
All right, fair enough.
You know,
Not my thing.
well, I can understand that. It's not really my thing either, but when you have a movie like this, I can see where it plays into that movie. So this one, it actually had fairly good framing, like scene-wise, framing, camera setup, and things like that.
sure.
On the technical side, I enjoyed a lot of that.
Yeah, there were some interesting things done behind the camera.
There were also some things that were just way over the top, as a movie like this is want to do.
Sure, yeah.
But I thought that was kind of funny in the long run. There were a couple things that there was at least one explosion that I'm like, yeah, right, that wasn't running long enough for that explosion to be that big.
Yeah.
But you know,
And again, it's that kind of movie.
It is that kind of
we were
movie.
in the third act.
So that was great. All in all, I think this movie held up throughout. There may have been a couple of things at the end where I was like, did they really need to do that little ending bit? But all in all, I enjoyed this.
Can I ask you this though, real
Yes.
quick? Did you like the ending? Did you like that?
The
bit
ending was
between them?
all right. The bit.
I didn't like the idea that he would do that.
I
We
didn't
can't talk
either.
about it, but I didn't like that he did that. Yeah.
You know, I thought the same thing. I got to the end and
Okay.
I'm like, okay, they're talking about how now they're like their relationship has morphed. Why would he actually go there? I thought they weren't going to do it, and then they did it.
Well, show us your sign, and then we'll talk some more
My
about it.
sign is I'm feeling it. I definitely did enjoy this. I'd say it's a you can go to the theater to see this one. You don't have to, but I actually kind of recommend this kind of the explosion thing's big screen.
It's not bad. It's
Yeah.
really not bad.
Not at all.
Part of my deal with the ending is and really with the whole idea of the differences in each of their moral codes.
Right.
Because that's a thematic thing that plays up a little bit, and I feel like could have been brought a little more to the forefront, honestly.
Yes.
Because by the time we start talking about it, I sort of forget that it was there in the first place. But that's neither here nor there. We're supposed to kind of think that Denzel Washington is more of a loose cannon than Mark Wahlberg.
Right.
And I never got that enough from him.
I didn't get that enough
felt
from
like
him either.
He was a little too level-headed in not just the acting, but in what they had him doing. The idea that Mark Wahlberg's character is more of a traditional United States soldier. You help your buddy and you pick him up and you put your life on the line for him and we trust each other. father and that kind of thing versus Denzel Washington's there is no code. We do what we have to, he says at one point. And I felt like that needed to be more at the forefront, because when you get to the end and he does that, I didn't feel like he was somebody that would go that far necessarily. Now that's after some pretty big violence on both of their parts.
Yes.
But I just didn't feel like he was any more capable of that than Mark Wahlberg's character.
No, you're absolutely right about that. That's something that I wondered about. They didn't show him to be more of a loose cannon, but they're both kind of, there was some twists there that I didn't see coming as in their how they got into these situations in the first place.
Yeah.
And that was interesting for me. Also, when their situations turn on them in different ways than we were kind of expecting their situations to go. Mm-hmm. You know, they morph into a new type of situation. The third main character, who played him? I can't think of his name.
I don't know which character we're talking about.
The main.
Are we talking about the bad guy of the drug cartel, or
no? The other guy involved whose money it belonged to, that they stole in the first place.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
I can't think of his name
right off. You're talking about the CIA guy?
Yeah.
Oh, that is that wasn't Bill Paxton, was it?
I think it was.
That was Bill.
It was Bill Paxton. Yeah,
I got through that whole movie and did not even know that was Bill Paxton.
I knew. I was like,
wow.
I recognize this guy. I recognize this guy. I recognize this guy. Who is this guy? He's filled out.
He looks a lot different from his Independence Day days, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. No, that was Bill Pullman. Bill Paxton. No. I'm thinking of somebody else.
Oh, well, no, Bill.
But I know who Paxton is too. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
What else was Paxton in? Why am I not thinking?
Well, I know. He was in the Hatfields and McCoys. I know that.
That was really recent, though. Yeah,
that was recent. But he even looks more filled out from that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I can't think of. What
I know who that is.
It's
just names aren't coming to me right now. But yeah,
that was Bill Paxton.
He's good in it.
Yes.
Maybe the mustache threw me off. Maybe that's what it was.
It's possible,
yeah.
but
his characterization was a little typical. He was a little two-dimensional. He was a loose cannon.
But
he
was definitely a loose cannon. But this is kind of a flatter movie.
It is.
You mentioned two-dimensional. It is a flatter movie.
It is a flatter movie.
So we don't get much in-depth development of their backstory.
And it is that kind of movie. It's just that the overarching story is formulaic enough that I don't feel like there's a lot new here. And I do think that maybe it could have gone further with some ideas because it's a more competent movie than these sometimes
are. Oh, sure, exactly.
So I'm giving it some credit by saying these characters could have been more fleshed out, and it would have been the same movie. As far as the fun comedy and that kind of stuff. I gotta tell you, this is nothing against the movie. This is just a personal thing for me. This is more of a quantity versus quality issue.
Right.
I am sick of drug cartel movies. I'm just tired of them. We are that and these kind of go hand in hand, really. But like I'm sick of drug movies and I'm sick of terrorist movies. And
there's more of that to come.
So much of that all the time. Yeah, and so this kind of thing.
We saw previews for like 3.
I think the issue is these movies very often act like they're being really subversive and like they're that they're really surprising us with the violence. And I'm like, at this point being subversive to what?
Yeah.
Because there's not
We're inundated with it.
Yeah, and I'm not. I don't mean to be preachy at all or get on a soapbox. I can like these kinds of movies. I just feel like that there are too many of them. You know, because it's like, you know, when you put these sorts of things out in the late 80s, early 90s, it was like more things were wholesome. So you'd watch this and be like, okay, now we can have more of this adult stuff. And we can be more surprised by those sorts of things.
Right.
I feel like like you said, we're inundated with that now.
That's right.
And so this movie, the effect is lessened on me than it would have been even in, say, 2004 or 1999.
I can understand that. That's how I feel. Another thing I've noticed is that a lot of these movies are not giving us an all-out sex scene, but they are alluding to a lot of these things.
Sure.
And there was at least a couple of scenes in this.
That's a part of these sorts of things.
I
right?
understand. Yeah, and that's what I've come to understand is like you're gonna have a scene where they're half naked in bed. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, but I mean, like, does that bug you?
No, it doesn't bug me. My sensibilities are kind of tuned that way, geared towards that. I don't know. I don't get a kick out of it, but I don't find it offensive. It's not offensive to me, blatantly.
I don't find it offensive either. I just, like I said, this is pretty by the numbers, so you kind of expect that scene. In fact, it's funny, and this is neither here nor there, but I read an article in Entertainment Weekly a few weeks ago that was talking about sex scenes and how the steamy love scene is kind of missing from a lot of movies now.
Yeah.
Like, we don't do full-on sex in rated R movies anymore.
Right.
We'll kind of, like you said, we'll allude to it. We'll do, again, it's kind of obligatory. We'll just go, well, we've got to have the girl with her shirt off. It's rated R, so since we can get away with it, we better throw a little bit of nudity in there.
That's something that if
we
they
don't
went,
do the straight-up steamy love scene anymore.
If they went all the way, it wouldn't bother me. I'd be okay with it. I'd be perfectly fine with it myself.
Again, if these are characters that I like and care about, and that plays into the story, I really, really don't care.
Right.
So anyway, I liked Edward James Olmos a lot in this. He was playing kind of somewhat against type a little bit. Not that I've seen him in a whole lot of things. Well, so Olmos is Adama in Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
He's like the main guy in that, and I've seen him in a couple other things. A couple years ago, he was in Green Hornet, and completely wasted. But yeah, he was the guy who ran the newspaper.
Okay.
And you see him like twice for not very long, but anyway, so I said he's playing against type.
Is he the guy that gets killed by the bee in the Green Hornet?
I don't think he dies in that. I forget. No, I mean he's the editor. I don't remember the editor dying. I've only seen it once. I don't remember.
I only saw it once too.
I don't remember. But anyway, I said he's kind of playing against type. He's not, in the sense that this is a really violent movie and he gets the crap beat out of him over and over again, which happens in Battlestar all the time.
Paybacks, as he keeps saying.
But I thought it was kind of fun to see him be the big drug cartel kingpin guy. He got more to do and was better served in the role than I thought James Marsden was in his. Marsden was kind of I thought kind of wasted in this. He was really, really minor. Marsden was the guy who played Cyclops in X-Men. And, I don't even remember who he is in this. That's the thing. Is he was really unmemorable in this. He was. Oh, I know what it was. He was the main Navy guy.
Was he?
That was going up against Mark Wahlberg's character.
I didn't even recognize him.
Yeah, for a minute I wasn't sure if it was him. He's changed a little bit in the face too, or maybe it was just in this movie they cut his hair different or something. I don't know, but for a minute I wasn't.
A haircut does a lot in a movie. Let me tell you.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't really have anything else to say about it.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I did enjoy this movie.
It was pretty standard. I thought the dialogue writing was better than the story. I'll say that.
There was some funny stuff. I actually enjoyed the story a fair bit. It threw me for a few curves, and
I found it somewhat predictable, but it's all right.
There were a couple of predictable things for me too.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think I'm ranking it a little higher than you are.
Yeah, sure.
But that's okay. I mean, that's bound to happen.
Again, it's also just not my kind of movie. For what it is, I think it's fine.
It was mine. It was my kind.
Well, everybody, thanks as always for watching us review a new movie, and we'll review something for you next week. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
See you next time.
Okay. Donut time.
Donut time.